What's up guys, and welcome to my Sparxie guide. In this video I'm taking you over everything you do need to know in order to build her, including an overview on her kit, Lightcone recommendations, relic sets and Planar ornaments, and then finally the stats you want to run for main stats and also substats. Sparxie's basic attack will deal fire damage based off her attack to a designated enemy. Her skill starts a livestream connection to transform her basic attack into an enhanced one and trigger engagement farming one time. During this ability you can repeatedly use engagement farming up to 20 times, and using the ability is not considered as using a skill. Engagement farming causes her enhanced basic attack to increase the damage multiplier against one designated enemy by 20% and the damage multiplier against adjacent targets by 10%. You also randomly gain one of the following gifts. Straight Fire will be 2 punchline points and 2 skill points, and Unreal Banger will be 1 punchline point and is also not considered using a skill. The enhanced basic attack, upon finalizing the live stream connection results, deals fire damage based off Sparxie's attack to a designated enemy and fire damage based off her attack to adjacent targets. Her ultimate gains 2 punchline points, deals fire damage equal to 0.6 times elation plus 50% of Sparkle's attack to all enemies. Her talent, when Sparxies possesses Certified Banger, using enhanced basic attack deals fire elation damage equal to 40% to a designated enemy and fire elation damage equal to 20% to adjacent targets. Additionally, for every time engagement farming is triggered, the enhanced basic attack deals an extra instance of fire elation damage equal to 20% to a random attacked enemy, and using ultimate deals fire elation damage equal to 48% to all enemies. Sparxie's elation skill will deal 50% fire elation damage to all enemies and deal 20 additional instances of damage. Each instance deals 25% fire elation damage to a random enemy and will grant 2 thrill points to Sparkle, which can be used to offset Sparkle's skill point consumption, and consuming thrill is considered as consuming skill points. For technique, after using technique, inflicts enemies within a set area with block for 10 seconds. Blocked enemies cannot detect allied targets. After entering combat attacking a blocked enemy, deals fire damage to all enemies equal to 50% of Sparxie's attack and recovers 2 skill points for all allies. For bonus traces, her A2 for every 100 points of Sparxie's attack that exceeds 2000 increases this unit's elation by 5% up to a maximum increase of 80%. Her A4, when there are 1/2/3 or more elation characters on the team, using Sparxie's ultimate will additionally gain 2/4/8 punchline and 1/1/4 thrill. And her A6, for every 1 punchline currently owned, increases all allies crit damage by 8% up to a max of 80%. Finally, for her Eidolons, her E1, when Aha instant ends, gains 5 additional punchline. For every 1 punchline owned, increases all-type res pen for all allies by 1.5% up to a maximum of 15%. Her E2, when Aha instant ends, Sparxie gains an extra turn and 2 thrill. Each time a thrill is consumed, increases this unit's crit damage by 10% for 2 turns that stacks up to 4 times. Her E4, when using ultimate, additionally gains 5 punchline points and increases elation by 36% for 3 turns. And her E6 increases all-type res pen by 20%. For every 1 punchline taken into account, the elation skill additionally deals an instance of damage up to a max of 40 times. For her Lightcones, unfortunately, as elation really doesn't have that many Lightcones, you're also not working with too many options as of now. But of course, her far and none best one is her own signature, which provides the wearer a 48% increase to crit damage. While the wearer is on field, for every elation character on the team, increases the skill point upper limit by 1 up to a max of 3. For every 1 skill point the wearer consumes, ignores 5% of the enemy target's defense when this unit deals elation damage, stacking up to 4 times. If 4 or more skill points are consumed in the same turn, the wearer gains stream promo, which will increase all allies elation by 20%, and Lightcone effects of the same type cannot stack. Sparxie also wants to be built with crit, so this Lightcone providing you 48% crit damage is going to be very, very good for building her. On top of that, Sparxie also wants to be ran with other elation characters. For now, all we really have is Yaoguang besides her, but in the future, you're going to want to run another one. So with her plus Yaoguang, you're able to increase the upper limit by 2, and then once they add one more, you can get the maximum upper limit skill point increase to 3. Sparxie also consumes a bunch of skill points, so getting a bunch of defense ignore is super easy, and you only really need to consume 4 to get the full 20% defense ignore for elation damage, which is again super easy to do with Sparxie, as you use plenty more than that usually on her turns. If 4 or more skill points are consumed in the same turn, which again is not a problem, you gain a buff that increases everyone's elation by 20%, so as more time goes on and the team gets more elation characters, that is going to see even more value. And even to start off, this is just going to be an increase to elation damage overall, which is of course the elation character's main source of damage. So this getting an increase is good. Everything provided here is super easily accessible, not really any restriction that's going to matter. Again, you consume way over 4 points of skill points on Sparxie's turn anyway, so this is just super simple. Eventually, you're going to run more and more Elation characters in the team, so the upper limit increase is also very easily accessible. And then finally, a free 48% increase to crit damage, which is good for Sparxie's personal damage, making this her far and none best in slot. Today's Good Luck is also another option you can use, giving the wearer 12% crit rate, and when the wearer uses Elation skill, increases Elation by 12%, stacking up to 2 times, and when this light code is able to be S5, it's 20% crit rate, with a 16% increase to Elation. Very simple, 20% crit rate when you are having this at S5 is going to be super easy to get a good ratio out of, especially with all the crit access that this character does have, so you can focus a lot on getting maximum crit rate, and wanting to get close to 100% as possible is going to be normal on her, so this helps a lot. On top of that, just using Elation skill, which you can get whenever the Aha instant procs on the action order bar, or even when Yagwong Force procs it with her ultimate. And when that procs, you get up to a 20% increase to Elation, which is going to be great for her, again, main source of damage. That stacks up to 2 times, so you can actually get up to a 40% increase to Elation, which is going to be a big damage increase anytime you are dealing Elation damage, making this icon very simple yet very strong. The 3-star Lightcone steering is also going to be usable on her. When Aha Instant is activated, the wearer's Elation increases by 16% until Aha Instant ends, and at S5, it's 32%. With this Lightcone, it's only really going to impact your Aha Instant damage. So unfortunately, the actual engagement farming spam, all that is not going to be impacted, but there's so little amounts of Lightcones that if you really have none of the other two, you're just going to have to run this one or the next one I'm going to mention. So if you have this, which is going to be a 3-star, so you probably will if you summon at all, you can use this in the meantime. And then the other 3-star Lightcone, Lingering Tears, also does work. When punchline is 10 or more, the wearer's crit damage increases by 20%, and at S5, it's 40% crit damage. Sparxie is going to be a massive punchline generator. Having 10 or more is going to be super easy with her. So this Lightcone is really just a permanent increase to crit damage in battle by 40%. And again, 3-star, so it's very accessible. So if you don't have any of the 4-star options, you can also very much use this one. And then for Relic sets, her best in slot and the only one you really want to use on her is not available, but will be available when the 4.0 update drops, called the Ever Glorious Magical Girl, with the 2-piece increase in crit damage by 16%. 4-piece, the Elation damage dealt by the wearer and their Memo Sprite ignores 10% of the target's defense. For each 5 accumulated punchline allies gain, the Elation damage dealt additionally ignores 1% of the target's defense, which stacks up to 10 times. So as I did mention, you still want to build Sparxie with crits, so the 16% crit damage from the 2-piece is very nice, also helping you allocate more stats into stuff like attack percent and crit rate. 4-piece gives you 10% defense ignore for free when it comes to Elation damage, and then every 5 punchline you gain will give you an additional 1% up to 10% in that case, and even generating up to the 50 punchline you required is very easy with Sparxie. So the 4-piece gives you up to a 20% defense ignore for the Elation damage you are dealing, which is again her main source of damage and is going to be where you do the biggest damage, and this Relic set is going to be the best increase to Sparxie's damage overall. As I did mention, that's really the only set you want to use. Otherwise, it would be 2-piece until you do have a set to use. For Sparxie, you mainly will do 2-piece attack and 2-piece attack to help with her actual bonus trace. That converts to Elation, assuming you're not already overcapping. So 2-piece attack and 2-piece attack, so 2-piece wooden soaring set, alongside 2-piece hero or one of those with 2-piece dot set, or one of those and musketeer. That's really the only 2 pieces you want to do because you don't really build Sparxie with any speed. And unfortunately, fire damage is not going to impact Elation damage, and damage percent buffs in general don't impact Elation damage, so you can't run 2-piece fire damage. But what you can also do is run 2-piece crit sets, so 2-piece World Remaking Deliverer for crit rates, same thing with Scholar, or 2-piece Wave Strider for the crit damage it does provide. So if you want better crit ratios, you can run 2-piece on the crit sets, but 2-piece attack with 2-piece crit, or 2-piece attack and 2-piece attack will be the main ways to go. For Planar Ornaments, her best in slot is going to be the Tengoku set, which increases the wearer's crit damage by 16% if 3 or more skill points are consumed in the same turn. Additionally increases the wearer's crit damage by 32% for 3 turns. So free 16% crit damage and then up to an additional 32% increase to crit damage with a very easy requirement for Sparxie, giving you up to a 48% increase to crit damage, which is insanely good. Only requirement is consuming 3 or more skill points, and just like I mentioned with her signature Lightcone, consuming skill points with Sparxie is extremely easy. 3 or more is not going to be a problem. So it really just becomes a permanent 48% increase to crit damage throughout the battle, which is going to be great for her damage anytime you do crit, and also helps you allocate even more stats to attack percent and crit rate building, making Tengoku Tengoku set, overall her best in slot. When pairing her with Yagwang or in the future another Elation character, at least Izumo set is going to also be usable, increasing the wearer's attack by 12%, which is good for her little conversion. When entering battle, if at least one teammate follows the same path as the wearer gains a 12% increase to crit rate. So it just helps you build her a little bit easier. 12% crit rate gets you closer to 100%. For now, it would be if you are pairing her with Yagwang. If you don't pull Yagwang, then unfortunately you're not going to use it until the next Elation character that you pair her with. But most people will pull Yagwang if you're playing Sparxies, so in that case when you're running them together, you can use Izumo, which makes her easier to build. If you are specifically using her with Danang Permanent Terre, you can use the Banan Amusement set, which will increase the wearer's crit damage by 16% when a target summoned by the wearer is on the field. Crit damage additionally increases by 32%. So 16% for free regardless, and then an additional 32% if you have a character that is, if you have something that is summoned by the wearer. If you don't know, Danang Permanent Terre, when you dedicate the character as a bondmate, he attaches his summon, which is then considered as the wearer summon, so the wearer technically is summoning them. So if you attach the bondmate buff to Sparxie, it's considered as her summon, which actually activates the full effect of Banan Amusement, giving you also up to a 48% increase to crit damage. This one is a little more restrictive because you have to run Danang Permanent Terre. If you're not running him, you're only getting the 16% crit damage, and then otherwise it's not going to be better than any of the two sets I did mention. But if you are running Danang Permanent Terre, then the set is the same as the Tengoku set. Just of course, Tengoku is more tailored towards her because it is skill point related. But again, if you are running Danang Permanent Terre, you can run this on your Sparxie. For the main stats on the relics, for the body, you're primarily going to do crit rate, but if you happen to have so good crit rate rolls, or maybe you're running the Lightcone that provides crit rate, and you happen to have near 100% or 100% without a crit rate body, in that case, you can run crit damage, or even attack percent if you want, just because she has so much crit damage access to her build, her base kit, so on and so forth. But just note, she does have a certain amount of attack until you do end up overcapping, which doesn't convert to elation anymore. For the feat, you want to run attack percent. For the orb, you also want to run attack percent, and for the link rope, you also want to run attack percent. For the substats, it's really just your generic crit rate, crit damage, attack percent. Attack percent is going to be your primary focus until you reach 3600 attack, as reaching 3600 attack is going to give you the full effect of her A2, which converts attack into elation, giving you up to a maximum of 80% elation increase. Do note attack buffs in battle also do affect it, so you don't have to get 36 attack outside of battle. That would be ridiculous. So attack buffs such as full ult and such does apply. So reaching 3600 attack is going to be a minimum you want to do to get the full effect of her trace. So that is going to be your first and foremost goal. Past that, it's going to be crit rate. Focus on getting that to as close as 100% as possible. If you're able to get it to 100%, that is ideal. You can neglect crit damage a little bit just to focus on crit rate, just because again, she has so much access to crit. The two pieces of her best in slot Relic set gives crit damage. Her base kit can give the entire team up to 80% crit damage. She has traces that gives crit damage. Her Lightcone gives crit damage if you have that. Tengoku or Banan Amusement both give crit damage. She has so much crit damage access that it's really worth to just focus on crit rate to get it to 100%. And then once you get it to 100% and also have the attack requirement figured out, then you would focus on just getting as much crit damage as possible past that. So again, first ensure in battle you have 3600 or higher attack for the full trace conversion. Then focus on crit rate, get it to as close as 100% as possible, and then you can focus the rest on crit damage. And that is the full Sparxie build guide. I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of Star Wars content, and I'll see you later. Peace out.